If he's on.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alan Briggs. I'm the president of Bald Head Association. I'd like to welcome you to this information session designed to help all of us learn more about Bald Head Island Transportation's electronic ticketing and reservation system that's being launched soon. I'd like to thank Chad Paul, CEO of Bald Head Island Limited, and Byone Stewart, the COO of Bald Head Island Transportation, for taking the time today to help our membership, contractors, employees, and others understand their plans. We appreciate it. Before they get started, I wanted to give you a few pieces of information to help this session go well, both for those of us who are in the room and those joining us by Zoom. As I understand it, we'll have many individuals registered to participate remotely today. Once Chad and Byone have concluded their presentations today, all of us here in the room and those joining remotely will have the chance to ask questions. For those in the room, at the appropriate time, please come up to the podium to ask your questions. Please state your name, and if you're a property owner, it would be helpful to let us know your on-island address. For those participating online, please raise your hand by clicking on the yellow hand located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. At the end, we'll call your name and ask you to mute yourself so you can ask your question. Today's presentation is being recorded and will be made available on BHA's YouTube channel 24 hours after this session. You will also find the video and the presentation by Chad and Byone on a special page on BHA's website at baldheadassociation.com. You can find the link on the right side of the homepage. Please pass along this information to others you might believe want to attend. This was that related, as you might guess, that we had an earlier session. But we don't need to talk about that now. It went well. These guys did exceptionally well. So you'll hear it again, but probably even better. So thanks to all of you for coming.
Thank you, Alan. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for coming. So let me talk about some history. I'm Chad Paul. I'm the CEO of Bald Island Limited and the president of Bald Island Transportation. I've had those roles since 2010. I was on the Mitchell family board that oversaw this aspect of their family holdings since 2006, prior to doing that. So my legacy was I got here on October 10th, and I got to sign the famous rate case, the one and only rate case order we had. I signed that agreement on behalf of Limited, although it had already been negotiated and already cleared away. So that's my history going back. Recently, we received about 39 email questions. Most of those 39 questions fall into kind of one of three buckets that we will address and answer in the presentation. We've also had some additional commentary, and we did follow some social media commentary related to last week's presentation. Again, we can kind of put those in the same buckets, and I'll address some of that. One of the things about the Utilities Commission I want to address, because it was a question and was also some things on social media. The Utilities Commission regulates rates. They do not regulate operations. We will utilize the Utilities Commission to assist us with schedule, because schedule is rates impact schedule, when we have adverse things like COVID. So when COVID happened, we had everybody in the world, the NBA, the NHL, the USFL, telling us what to do. So for example, the Coast Guard is our primary regulator. They do exactly what the president, the executive branch, tells them to do. During COVID, the executive branch was telling us one thing. The governor of North Carolina was telling us another thing. Department of Transportation was telling their ferry operations something else to do. The mayor of Bald Head was very different than the mayor of Southport. And remember, Deep Point resides in the municipality of Southport. So whether we like it or not, Deep Point, the ferries are domiciled in Deep Point. Mayor Hatem tells me what to do over there. Brunswick County tells me what to do over there. It's unfortunate, but that's the way that works. So we will look to the Utilities Commission to help provide us clear guidance, especially as it relates to issues like COVID, where we reduced to 25 passengers. A lot of y'all had a very difficult experience during COVID. That's been the most recent experience we've had. But prior to that, remember, so we had Hurricane Florence in 19. We spent the entire 2020 season recovering. Roll around, we roll into season 21. We get hit with COVID. COVID stays through beginning of season 22. Those experiences have helped us inform us quite a bit. The idea for electronic ticketing is something we've been working on since 2017 in earnest. The idea was it would be something the authority would undertake if and when the authority happened. Well, we all know where we are with that, or we should all know where we are with the authority and limited and a third party buyer and else. What I decided to do is I went to the Mitchell family year before last and said, it doesn't matter who owns the system. I really don't care. If you want me to operate it, we need to move towards an electronic ticketing system and then potentially move towards reservations. Big picture that you need to all walk away from today. We are not turning off one system and turning on another. We are going to continue to go ahead, and if you want to buy paper tickets and you want to do paper tickets and do first come, first serve and do all that kind of stuff and pay cash at the window, absolutely do that. We're going to run a parallel system, which is going to be an electronic system. And the idea is that electronic system is going to walk and talk just like your airport ticketing, just like your bus ticketing, just like your train ticketing. That's what that system is going to do. We've been working in earnest for about 18 months now. About 18 months ago, Bayonne and I attended the premier passenger vessel conference. And we went out there and we had met, I had already earmarked several vendors, and I had the vendor that I thought would be at the top of the list. That vendor I had vetted, I had met with. They actually run a system for Casco Bay ferries in Maine, and they tied that system to the bus system and did the bus scheduling as well. And why that's important is we have the tram system. So it's easy in some regards for somebody to do a ferry system, but then you've got to tie it into basically the tram. And so I thought they'd be at the top of the list. I went out there pretty much thinking we're going to meet these folks. We're going to vet them again. We're going to have them here to the island. And without question, this group's going to come on top. Well, lo and behold, they came out on bottom when it was all said and done. That's how confident we are with the new group that we've got, that the anchor system we're going to leverage and utilize. But again, the big picture is you can continue to buy your paper tickets. The reservation portion of the electronic ticket is only going to be applied nominally on the main passenger ferry. Contractor employee tickets will not be on a reservation basis on the contractor ferry schedule. Why is that? Frankly, we have a lot of contractors that don't have credit cards. We have a lot of contractors that don't have PDA phones. Ideally, they want to pay cash, they want to get their paper ticket, they want to get in line, they want to get scanned in, and they want to go. So we're going to be able to match that up. The only reservation piece will be is if you buy a general fare ticket, we will allocate based on history a certain number of folks that can go online and order a reserve ferry. They know they've got to get off at 2 o'clock on a day. And if they have a full fare ticket or they have a bulk 40 ticket, they can go in there and make that reservation, because that's what the ticket class is now. There's no changes to any tickets. It's the same ticket class since 2010, all the different tickets, right on through from general fare all the way on down to no frills. Some include tram, some don't. Some include baggage, some don't. You can still buy whatever tariff you want, whatever ticket you want. There's no price changes. There's no anything. Couple other things. When I got here, Limited owned every single commercial business on the island except the Bald Island Club. I own and operated the market, the spa, all the restaurants, the Shoals Club, retail outlets, shipping and receiving, which we still do, facilities maintenance, the largest operator of vacation rental management. When I got here, we had about 550 employees. All of those employees still work on the island. They just work for somebody else that we sold the business to. Now, those that have been here for 30 years would recall that if you wore this shirt with that logo and you got in that line, the sign's been up for years. Employees ride, stand by on the main ferry. When they were our employees, stand aside. That's not the case. In addition, recall Hurricane Florence and COVID, we had to throw that all out. I know there's been some social media buzz about baggage. We did tighten up and follow the baggage rules starting in February, primarily for contractors riding on the main ferry. The contractors saw that it's a real deal. They can spend $23, take on 3 bags plus a carry-on the main ferry and get a tram ride to the job and totally circumvent contractor services. That's fine. They want to do that, that's great. But what the problem was is they weren't bringing 3 bags or putting it in the containers with a livid top. They were trying to bring on 4x8 sheets of plywood and massive pieces of equipment on the main ferry. So we had to start to work on that. I would suggest island property owners and island residents have never had a problem going to Walmart or going to Costco or going off island and getting their stuff and coming back on a Tuesday and having an issue with getting their bags or their stuff on the ferry. So I'm going to point that out. We all know who y'all are. And the good news is you don't travel on the Saturday of July 4th to go to Costco to get your stuff. So that's not the issue. The issue is we've got a lot of training to do with our vacation rental customers and with some of our contractors. Another point of data for you. 2002 saw the largest amount of homes built on the island. 65 homes were built that year. I think we built all but 3 or 4 of them. Right now, the island is on an unprecedented building boom. So it's kind of like with COVID. What's the new normal? It's a very seasonal island. We'll transport, call it 400,000 passengers to and from the island this year, round trip. The majority of those passengers are $23 riders, contractors, employees. The resident population accounts for less than 7% of total ridership on the ferry system. Vacation rental guests, they're about a third. Part-time property owners, probably about 20%. So you can see that it's a seasonal swing. You can't build a system to operate at perfect capacity for July 4th and make it affordable. So we've always had the equivalent of the pig and the snake. We get a lot of calls, hey, just run more boats and bring people from the mainland and dump them here on the island and just keep bringing them over. Well, problem is that creates huge problems for the 3 guys in the back, because all we've done is taken that big log jam and dropped it here in the marina, and the officers and PSO has to figure out how they're going to get all those folks on the roads and get them out of here. So we've got trying to balance that out. The ticketing software will help because it will be, right now we have 35 years worth of data. We can go back. So not this weekend, but last weekend, we ran a second boat on Saturday. We ran it from 4:30 to 6:30. Didn't get a single passenger. Year before and the year before that, the data said, hey, we're going to need that boat. So that boat goes back and parks, and honest to goodness, we bumped the 7:30, 8:30, and 9:30. So the data would say that no one would ride that historically. The electronic ticketing data tied with the fact that we've got the electronic ticketing for the trams, we will have real time data that we can communicate with our captains and crews as well as with Chief May and his folks in terms of what's going on out there. So that will help tremendously in terms of being able to capture that data and use that data. As it relates to the data, some of the folks have been here a long time. There's always been this mystery, that Limited takes the data from transportation and uses it to market its real estate. We don't do that, and we're committed to not doing that with anybody's data that you provide. Everything we're doing is PCI compliant with credit card destruction, address destruction, all of that stuff gets tossed out. So that's just kind of a little backdrop. We really need to do this for the island, really need to do this for the transportation system. So what I'm going to do is pass over to Bayonne. I want Bayonne to talk a little bit about his background first, and then we'll walk through the presentation.
So I'll give you a little bit of background while we're bringing up the presentation. So most of you may have heard my name. I've been around since October of 2021. After I retired from the Coast Guard, I spent 32 years, started in the Navy, ended up in the Coast Guard. I used to be the sector commander. I was talking to Chief May just a second ago about some port security grant issues, but I used to be the one captain the port, sector commander, federal on-scene coordinator. I wore about 6 different hats when I was working in this area. And that's how I first became familiar with the Bald Head Island ferry system. And when word got out that I was retiring from I was chief of staff of the 5th District of the Coast Guard, which runs Coast Guard operations from New Jersey down through North Carolina. And Chad and Claude McKernan, who some of you are probably familiar with, heard I was retiring and decided to give me a call, and they made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. And the reason why I was so interested in working for the Bald Head Island Ferry is because I'm very mission oriented. I like to be able to plan and execute missions and get the job done. And the way I view our operation is this is as important a mission to this community as any other that I executed in the Coast Guard. And so we're looking at ways to improve our mission execution, to improve efficiency, provide better service, more predictability in travel plans, and more options. And that's really what's been the focus of this particular effort. We're doing a lot of other stuff that we don't always advertise, re-engineering some of the boats to provide better reliability and performance, and some other upgrades that we've been looking at for longer term planning, trying to put a strategic plan in place to continue to provide the service. And we are looking, like Chad said, we look at a lot of data. We understand for the most part passenger flow trends that are driving some of the operational decisions we're making. But there is an inherent unpredictability in any transportation system. And sometimes you all experience that unpredictability. Well, guess what? We're experiencing that unpredictability at the same time you are. Our job is to adapt and react to that unpredictability as best we can. And this is part of that effort. And so what I'd like to do is we'll walk through the presentation. I'm not going to read every bullet in the slide. What I'll do is speak to the content as you guys look over it. Just real quick question though, how many folks either looked at this presentation on the association website or maybe opened up the video for a little bit before? Okay, a couple. So some of this is going to sound very familiar, but hopefully we'll touch on a few things that maybe you didn't catch. And then another quick question, just to kind of frame what this system is. How many folks have in the last decade purchased an airline ticket, a bus ticket, a theater ticket, or anything online? Okay. Folks at home online probably are raising their hands as well if they chose to physically participate. But the point being, we're not reinventing the wheel here. The system that we're using is proven worldwide. They deploy this system with other transportation systems and other hospitality systems worldwide. Well proven. They happen to be with one of the largest maritime hospitality companies in the world, in fact. And so they have done an incredible job really working with us as a partner to develop a system that we hope is as user-friendly as it is functional in terms of getting us where we want to be for serving the customer and providing you more options how to interact with the company. And that's whether you choose to do so in person or you choose to do so online. So as we discussed, the new system will allow you to go online, purchase tickets, make ferry reservations with certain ticket classes. Those will be automatically connected to a tram reservation if you choose to do so. You will also be able to, when you go into your ticket selections, you'll have the ability to add on additional baggage. You're bringing a paddleboard over, surfboard. You want to use the bike service that we offer during the season. All those things can be pre-selected and included in your purchase when you've concluded your transaction. As we noted, the contractor ferry will still remain first come, first serve. Yes, contractors and employee ticket holders may ride the ferry system when the contractor ferry isn't available for contractor tickets and for employee tickets when they need to take that ferry instead. But the loading process will be reservations will go on first, and then the rest of the tickets that are available, rest of the seats available will be for standby. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. How many folks are familiar with what a QR code is real quick? Okay, very simple, similar to barcode, but it carries much more information. And so we'll be able to, the barcodes that you currently see on your paper tickets, those will be replaced with QR codes. And those will be delivered to you by email or by text, or you can, if you choose to do that, you can print them out at home, or we can print them at the window if you choose to go to the window and buy your ticket.
One of the things about the electronic software we have is they have worked out where you can get your ticket into your Apple Wallet. And believe it or not, that's a pretty unique thing. There's not many when we had done that of the 5 that we worked with, they were able to get the ability so your ticket can be in your Apple Wallet. So like if you have an annual pass, putting your Apple Wallet on your phone or the equivalent for the Android, and you can do that rather than getting it by text or by email, which you can do, or printing it out. So that was, again, a simple thing, but we had 3 or 4 vendors that had not worked that out yet.
So the system will be available both as a mobile application. We are getting to the final stages of developing the Android app. The iPhone app is available for download. You just go into the store and type in Bald Head Island Ferry and it'll pop up. It is not functional right now. It was deployed by our vendor, but they did not turn off the purchase option. And we actually had someone, unbeknownst to us, all of a sudden we showed in the system 7 general fare tickets were purchased by someone online through the app. And it was a surprise to us. Unfortunately, we're not able to process those tickets. We haven't set the system up to actually
We're able
use
to
it.
refund them. So the good news is we
yeah.
can refund the money, but we weren't supposed to be live. It was just up there for.
Yeah, we reversed it, but I looked at it 2 ways. One, unfortunate that was the first experience with the app, but it was inadvertent. But 2, even without anyone really advertising actively that the app was available, there was a organic demand for the ability for someone to go online and purchase tickets electronically. What does that mean? This is someone who isn't going to be standing in the line to purchase tickets after they've dropped off their baggage. They're going to go straight into the corral to be scanned onto the boat. So it streamlines service, not only for them, but for anyone else who might want to walk up to the ticket booth for additional assistance. A couple of the other great things that the app will allow you to do is if you purchase your ticket online, you can change reservations through the app. You can cancel your reservation and initiate a refund on your own to your form of payment. You don't have to come to the window to do that anymore. The other thing it will give us the ability to do is if you provided us either an email or a phone number and we've texted you your ticket, even if you've purchased one in the past, we may be able to still forward out an alert when we have a disruption in the ferry service. As you well know, we try to put up updates on our website, but it's a passive system. You kind of have to figure, wait, is something wrong, and go look for any notices that might have been posted. Well, this way, if we know there's a disruption, we have something that has happened to slow the ferry down. For example, we had a code 1 medical emergency today. We had to turn the ferry around and put us behind schedule by half an hour. When that happens, we can actually go online and send a text or an email alert to everyone that has a reservation for that day and let them know ferry is running 30 minutes behind. Please adjust your plans accordingly, something like that. That will be an active notification that we don't have the capability to do at this time, but we'll have in the future. So that's another great benefit. So what is this going to look like? It's a very simple drop-down menu. It kind of walks you through the process. These are a couple of screenshots. There might be a few changes from when we took these. On the app itself, there'll be a real-time tracking. So now you pull up the Bald Head Island app on your phone and you'll be able to see where the ferry is relative to which side you're looking to get on and off. Right now, you can go on the website to do that. We're hoping, we haven't been able to fully test it yet, but we're hoping that this system is actually a little bit more accurate. Now, the thing that will be missing is the famous dragon. We were not able to, so this is based on Google Maps, the one that we have working off the website. So it's a
I
proprietary.
was not aware of the dragon. So the dragon's named Sam for Shirley Mayfield, but yes, Sammy is going to be retired. Unfortunately, I didn't get to Bayonne in time about that. And so we won't have the dragon, but it'll be more responsive than the dragon.
We asked for it. We did. We asked for it, but we couldn't get Google to change our little app for us to put our fire breathing dragon in. So my recommendation is remember the dragon spit fire right around the turn to Battery Island. So as the ferry goes by there, it's approximately the halfway point. I'll divulge a little bit of a secret that our employees actually watch for that dragon as their time when their last moment before they can go to the bathroom and then be back for when the ferry arrives and then do all the work. So the first question I got is what happened to the dragon from our employees. They were a little bit upset about that. But really, again, here, if you see you go to the buy tickets block, you go to the my tickets, that's where you'll be able to change, cancel your reservation if you have one, or your ticket purchase if you have one. Obviously, once your ticket has been scanned once, you won't be able to make any changes to that except for maybe on the return trip, but we may have to call in to do that. There's a few of the technical things that we're still trying to work out because we haven't been able to fully test every single possible scenario, but we are working through and thinking through, and to use a military term, we have war gamed the processes and the systems as much as we possibly can at this point. But sometimes you really do have to get on the ground, see how it works, how people interact with the system before we'll be able to predict every possible scenario that we're going to have to address. But we are dedicated to making sure that we make this as smooth and seamless as possible, but there will be some hiccups. There's no doubt about it. Anytime you roll out a system like this, there's always going to be some of the challenges. But like I said, we've been dedicated, and as Chad mentioned, for a long time trying to get this right as best we can. So it'll go into where you're leaving from. It'll give you a number of different dates you can book out in the future if you want. We're going to ask that if you do want to make a reservation on one of the ferries for the same day, try to do so about 3 hours in advance. And that really allows the tram system to be aligned with the ferry as much as anything else. But if you can't make that timeline, you can still go on and try to make it as soon as possible. Or when you think you're going to be in the area, you can go on and do that. Say you booked a reservation and you got delayed 5 hours or something happened. You can go back on, go to the My Tickets, and you can switch your reservation if you need to, as long as there's reservations available. You can still show up at the ticket window with your ticket with that reservation time. And then if once all the folks with that boat has gone on, you can go on as a standby, they'll let you on. Your ticket doesn't disappear or expire. You just shift from having a reservation to be one of the standby folks. And we'll talk about the standby reservation process with a little more detail in a little bit. But really drop down, select what times you want to run. If you choose to take, if you're buying a tram eligible ticket, you will be able to select the tram. It will automatically connect to your arrival time here on the island or your departure time from the island. Here's where you'll select those additionals. For example, the tram round trip on the bottom, you'll pop that in with the number of people that or number of tickets you purchased, and then it'll take you to additional information for where you're going, street address. What we've done is imported. Some of you may have already made reservations for the tram for a future date. Those are being imported into the new system. Right now, believe it or not, there's somewhere around 5,500 tram reservations already made in our system. Those will be imported into the new system. When you go to buy a ticket, you'll want to align your ticket time, your ferry reservation, if you're making a ferry reservation, but that reservation is in the system. When they print out the expected runs for the day like they do now, they'll have whatever that reservation is already in the system.
Let's just make sure we're understand. When we flip the switch to move to electronic ticketing, if you booked a tram reservation prior to that date, you do not need to go in and do your tram reservation again. We are going to import all of that data from the current tram system into the new tram system. So if someone that's watching online booked a tram reservation for this July, last July, they do not need to go in and do that. That'll automatically transfer over. So that's really important. The other thing too about the drawdown menus. We have the ability to print out baggage tickets. We are not going to do that. We are going to continue to do the honor system like we implemented last year. We're not going to weigh bags. We're not going to do that. Notwithstanding, part of it is if you've been to the island and been here a long time, Deep Point's terminal was designed to be TSA compliant. You know, God forbid, but we're probably one incident away or a big maritime incident away from having to move to TSA compliance. If you recall, there's the upper terminal upstairs. There's a beltway that runs through from the upper terminal. We could install baggage scanning equipment in that beltway if we had to. But we would not be able to do any of it without an electronic ticketing system. With electronic ticketing system, it'll slow it down and be backed up, but not like it is today where you'd have cars parked all the way to Main Street, downtown Southport, waiting to get on and off. So, you know, if we ever had to, we could print out baggage tickets, we could do all that kind of stuff, but we're not going to do that right now. We're going to just focus on having the dual system, parallel system, continue to operate on an honor system on the baggage relative to not having our outfitters going out there and scanning bags.
Once you've gone through the process, and again, the system will walk you through. If you decide to change something, you can just go back, pick a different time or a different day or a different ticket class. You can always go back and restart over. Once you go through the process, put all your billing information in, you will receive either an email or a text to the QR code or both. You can get it both ways if you'd like. And this will basically be your ticket. So one QR code will serve for both transits, round trip. And you don't have to keep track of 2 tickets now, and you'll be able to keep that on your phone. We recommend you keep it on your phone for easy access. And all you have to do is get in line, walk up, and we'll scan it. And again, as Chad mentioned, one of the nice benefits of this system and the companion application, mobile application that the company has developed is the ability to transfer this in your wallet. Some of you have bulk 80 cards, some of you have annual pass cards. Those will eventually transition from the hard card into a QR code that you can keep in your wallet. And now you don't have to carry, I mean, most of you probably carry your phones around. It's an unfortunate reality of living these days, but now you don't have to worry about carrying a separate card. And the other good thing is if you lose it, you delete it or something like that, as long as we have a name, a phone number, or an email address, we can go back into the system, regenerate the QR code and resend it to you. This is what the website looks like. As you can tell, it looks very similar to the app. There's a reason for that, is they want this to be familiar no matter what method you choose to purchase your ticket. It's very much the same. Once we go live and you go back into the Bald Head Island Ferry website, you're probably going to think, well, wait a minute, something's wrong, because it looks exactly like the old one. It will look exactly like the old one. There'll be a link to where you can go purchase your tickets. But other than that, we purposefully designed it so that it would remain familiar to most of our riders. So it's going to have the same color schemes, the same logos, the same pictures of the ferry, might have been moved around a little bit or something like that. But for the most part, it will look exactly like it does today. And we will continue to do updates. The other nice thing about not doing proprietary software is that the company will make sure it stays up to date with OS requirements, both mobile apps, iOS, Android, and Windows-based systems, so that hopefully we don't have any compatibility issues with any of the operating systems out there, and they do those updates and push them out to us as well on a regular basis. And again, this is a representation of what you will get. Now, you can forward this. Say you buy 5 tickets for family members and they're not all going to be traveling at the same time, or hopefully getting there on the same day, or whatever you think you're not going to be able to travel all together, you can send this out to them and then they can use it. And that QR code, based on the number of tickets you buy, will dictate how many scans it's good for, if that makes sense. So you buy 10 tickets, 10 people can travel round trip, whether it's you and grandkids and sons, daughters, or whatever, that's going to be seamless to the system. All you have to do is, if that person has that QR code and it hasn't been scanned its maximum number of times, and that includes with bulk tickets, you'll be able to ride. Okay. So how are we going to do this? I know part of the biggest, I think everyone kind of understands what an electronic ticket is. I think part of the challenge is, okay, how is this going to work? How are we going to transition? And as Chad mentioned, we've been fielding a lot of questions. The fortunate thing is we set up through, and want to thank the Bald Head Island Association. Alan and the team here, Carrie and everyone, have been really very helpful getting the word out. We managed through their recommendations. We set up the e-ticket questions email so that we could receive questions and try to adapt and kind of modify and structure this presentation around a lot of those questions. But as I saw questions coming in, what I felt confident in is that I had already asked those same questions. You know, everyone kind of had a few different individual scenarios, but most of the questions fell into about 5 or 6 different buckets. And for the most part, we've been able to figure out how most of it will work. And so what I'm going to do now is go over the implementation plan, which should cover a lot of those questions. And then I know we're going to have a Q&A session after we do the presentation for any other specific questions you might have. So as I noted earlier, the entire purpose of this really is to give people more options and a better user experience to engage with the services we provide kind of on your terms in a lot of ways. I mean, there's some things that are going to be out of all of our control, but for the most part, the ability to either come to the window, go online, make a reservation, don't make a reservation, choose the ticket class that best suits your needs, whether you need tram or you need reservation, or you don't need either of those. That is up to you. And now you have multiple ways that you can interact with the company to make your travel plan. And we want to make that as easy and smooth and predictable and reliable as we possibly can. And so as we move forward, we've already asked a lot of the big questions. One of them is the bulk tickets. A lot of the residents, property owners on the island purchase bulk tickets. The bulk tickets will remain available. As Chad mentioned, anything some folks interpreted this change as getting rid of bulk ticket options and things like that. No, nothing that's currently in the tariff is going to change. They all remain available. The bulk 40 and the bulk 80 tickets, if you choose to purchase those, you may purchase them at the ticket booth. And you have two options with the bulk 40 in particular. So the bulk 40 is reservation and tram eligible. Okay. That means what will happen is if you choose to purchase a bulk 40 ticket, we will issue you what is called a coupon code. And then each time you want to make a plan for travel, you go in online, you can book your reservation and your tram as you would like. And then when you go and check out, you input your coupon code and it will do a zero cost transaction that then issues you a QR code for that trip. Now, if you choose to do paper, you can do that. We can print out same old paper tickets for you. They'll have a QR code on them instead of the barcode. However, those paper tickets do not give you the ability to do a reservation. You can still call in and make a tram reservation, but we won't be able to do a ferry reservation if you choose to have paper tickets printed out in the bulk 40. There's just no way for us to integrate a paper printout ticket to the electronic reservation system. So that is a choice you can make. It's up to you. Some folks buy the bulk 40 and then distribute it because they want to have the tram service for whatever reason. You can still use the ticket as a standby customer, but that choice is up to you. So bulk 80, if you already have a bulk 80 card, that bulk 80 card is being transferred into the new system. Whatever rides you have remaining on that bulk 80 are still valid. It will scan just like the other one, that are scanned the same as you have now. However, when you go to purchase another bulk 80, you will receive it as a QR code, as I discussed earlier, instead of a physical card. Again, we'll get into some of the other process rules. Employee cards will remain valid until we switch to QR codes. We're still issuing employee cards today for some of the folks that are bringing some international folks over to work on the island. And again, all of those cards, the day before we transition, every card that is in the system now will be imported into the new system and will remain valid. Annual passes, exactly the same. If you have an annual pass, it will be transitioned into the new system. When you renew an annual pass or you buy an annual pass next time, it will be a QR code. Paper tickets that you already own, they are still valid. Now, we may not be able to scan them once we shift to the new system, but we are setting up a transfer process so that you just come to the window, you exchange your ticket at the window, and we'll issue you either printed QR codes, or we can email you or text you a new QR code to use for those tickets that you have, physical tickets that you have. It'll be a zero cost, obviously, transaction. Your tickets aren't going to expire. We're hoping that everyone will be able to trade out their old tickets for new ones within 90 days. But we'll keep doing it as we have to. We'd like to continue to move on to the new system. And so we are looking to encourage folks to try to get those changed out 90 days after we go live. But again, for whatever reason, you're out in Raleigh, you only come during certain periods of the year, you show up in October and you have a bulk 40 that you haven't used and you want to change it out, we can still do that.
Couple of things to point out. The way the tariff is set up now, since 2010, Class 1 general boards first. Class 2 ticket is bulk 40. They board After all, class ones, class three is bulk 80, they board. We haven't had to deal with that in the recent past, except during COVID and during extreme times. Okay. What this system will do, we're having enough slack in the system so that those that have class one general, bulk 40, annual pass, that they can basically board per the class that they're allowed to do. It's all first come, first serve right now, based on your ticket class. I've read some things on social media. I understand. We know there are people that have figured out a way in the system that works best for them. We know there's a lot of no frills ticket holders that are riding the tram. They're not happy. I understand, but no frills does not get a tram ride. So the new system is going to sort some of that out, but not be so stringent that we have people get displaced. Another item, 400,000 round trips. On average, we carry less than 10 total rides in annual pass and bulk 80 a day. That's it. On average, 10. And that's usually on the non-peak days, because we all know who has bulk 80s and who has annual passes, and they're not riding on the 4th of July Saturday, right? So they're riding today. We'll have 2,000 passengers today. We'll have roughly 10 that will be bulk 80 and annual pass combined. So when we have our boarding, bulk 80 will not have the ability to go make a reservation, but they're going to be boarded with the reservation folks. And so if we cap reservations to 100, 10 a day, annual pass, bulk 80, they will board with the reservation passengers. So there shouldn't be any issue about first come, first serve, like the system is right now for them. We have the data. We know where we'll have to make some adjustments, but that's how we can manage that process, because we have that data. And again, the bulk 80 users and the annual pass users, not to worry, you're not going to get boxed out in terms of having access to the system. Notwithstanding, if you are a bulk, if you are a no frills buyer of a ticket and you're currently using the tram, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. But this is not an effort to push you into one class or another. It's to sort based on the way the tariff reads right now. We'll take those questions at the end if we can.
The only thing is, you're talking about something I thought, I don't know what the difference between bulk 40 and bulk 80. I just thought bulk ticket. Did you explain that?
Yes, so the bulk 40 allows you 40 rides. It allows you a tram and it allows you baggage. A bulk 80 allows you 80 rides and it allows you baggage, but no tram.
Both of them allow reservations.
The bulk 40 will be set up to make reservations. The bulk 80 will not, but that bulk 80 rider will not need to worry. Like I said, for example, if we only allow 100 reservations on a boat and we are allowed per Coast Guard to carry 150, and we average 10 total rides per day of bulk 80 and annual pass riders, they can just board and we should be fine. You're at your technically reservation 101 to 110. I have not looked at the data to confirm, but I do not believe, other than emergencies around weather, I don't believe we've ever boarded 50 or more annual pass bulk 80 riders since I've been here in 10 years or 12 years. Don't quote, but I'm pretty sure other than weather emergency.
But if we could hold up on the questions, we'll get through this, because some of this may answer some of those, and then we'll go into specific questions.
And the Zoom people have been letting us know that they cannot do this.
So we're touching on more of the transition in the boarding process. And this is probably one of the areas where will be somewhat either confusing or frustrating, depending how you look at it. But again, the decisions we've been trying to make and structure around what is a highly complex tariff issued by the the North Carolina Utility Commission and looking at historical data, different ticket types, average runs or how many passengers we run over a period of time has driven a lot of the decisions that have been made. So as noted, passengers with reservations would board first. And then anyone without a reservation or has a reservation for a different day or a different time may still board the next available ferry. They will just board as a standby customer. Now, as Chad mentioned, our entering argument based on historical data is that we will make 100 reservations available publicly and that 50 of the seats will be for standby, walk up, last minute travel deciders. And that's on every single run. And that's not just throughout the day. That's on every single boat that we run. And we run on average 18 to 24 transits a day. And oftentimes, as you well know, just like this last weekend, when we have anticipated higher ridership, we'll actually run additional boats. Those additional boats will be loaded into the system because we will be scheduling them, and you will also be able to access both reservations and standby rides on each of those boats. So what in effect will happen, very, very rarely do we see where we get 100 on a single run of reserved tickets. So even though we may have 100 available, say we only get 50 booked for that particular run, that means 100 are now available for standby riders or employee riders or things like that. So we looked at the data, and the purpose for doing this is a couple of fold. One is to minimize disruption to what we can expect in terms of predictable rider patterns based on the data we have. And the other is still to make enough reservations available to really get the advantage, the return on investment that we really want to have out of this system, which is in a lot of ways a normalization of the traffic flows. As anyone that's been around knows, everyone wants to travel at the same time, both onto the island and off the island. Everyone gets in line at the same time. Well, if you're a day tripper or you're a visitor to the island, you're a renter to the island, and you get online and you find out that the 10 o'clock boat off the island is already booked, you'll pick a different time. And that will hopefully lower the amount of stress on the system by having 500 or 600 people show up at the terminal all at the same time, all expecting to get on the 10 o'clock boat. Because what happens? They don't. The baggage piles up. They stand in line for 2 or 3 hours until they can get through the long, what is essentially a first come, first served standby line as it is now. Now, if we can get if through the reservation process, we can flatten that curve a little bit in terms and spread out the flow, that gives us a better opportunity to better serve the entire population of riders, because the system is not so overly stressed during those peak times. Now, are we going to get it perfect? I doubt it. If any of you knows how to get anything perfect these days, I don't know, maybe you could make a lot more money than I do. I don't know. But the reality is we're looking at data, we're looking at trends, and we're trying to make a best guess as to what that ratio should be. If we look at the data, 100 entering for available and then 50 standby, with the recognition that very rarely do we get to that 100, looks to be about the best balance right now. Now, what is good is the ability to capture data. So one of the realities of the data that we're looking at is right now there is no reservation option available. So none of the data that we have captures that passenger option. So we're trying to interpolate and extrapolate a little bit what that might look like when people have the opportunity to gather data. As we go through this, as we go through the transition, as we get those numbers in the near term, we'll be able to look and say, well, did we get the balance right? Okay, are we not getting this? Should we reduce the number of reservations available? Maybe we can increase the number of reservations available. We also have the ability to go in and target certain runs at certain times. That's a little complex to try to do right now at the onset. But as we gather data, we gather experience, we can apply those lessons learned, and then we can adjust. Say we know having 100 reservations available for the 9 a.m. run on a Tuesday morning doesn't make sense. So maybe we adjust that to 20 reservations available and everyone else is standby. Who knows? I can't predict what that data is going to look like with these new options available, but we have the ability to analyze, gather and analyze that data in almost real time. And we're going to exploit that capability to try to get this balance as right as best we can. It will take a little bit of time. It will take a little bit of trial and error. But we think eventually we're going to be able to get this to the point where we are actually being able to deliver what it is our goal is a better customer experience for everyone. Because I know everyone gets frustrated with I could show up at the ferry terminal and I may or may not get on the next boat. And everyone that rides our ferry right now has that same exact challenge. And we would like to kind of shift that burden a little bit and spread out the flow and hopefully give everyone a better experience.
And the idea is for the folks in the room, which are mostly residents and property owners, there are times when you've got to make a flight. You want to make that flight. So that's going to be one of those where you're going to probably book a reservation if you're a bulk 40 customer. Whereas if you're just going over to Home Depot or Walmart, you might not do the reservation. You might just go ahead and ride standby. But it's also a huge benefit for the vacation rental guest. In so much as that every single vacation rental guest wants to come over on Saturday morning at the 10 o'clock on the 10 o'clock boat, notwithstanding that they can't get into their house till 1 o'clock. And everybody that's renting the house is supposed to be out of the house by 10 o'clock, but they don't get out of the house till 1. And so what ends up happening is everybody tries to get off the island at 4:30 to include the people that clean the house. And that's a huge problem. But if we now have the ability for the vacation rental guest who's buying a general fare ticket to go ahead and say, you know what, the 10 o'clock boat to the island is full. Maybe they'll go to the 11, or maybe they'll go on the 9, and they'll spread that out so we don't have the 2.5 boats deep's worth of waiting at Deep Point on a Saturday. My biggest place that I'm going to be watching, frankly, is going to be outbound from the island to the mainland, primarily on Saturdays between 4:30 and 6:30, and on holiday weekends at the end of that weekend, same timelines. Those scheduled rides are the ones that we really need to try to help alleviate, primarily because, again, we've got the vacation rental guests, we've got property owners, and we've got employees all trying to leave in that 4:30 to 5:30 time. And without the ticketing software, it becomes really problematic. But that may be somewhere where we start to do something with reservations more so than on the mainland. I think the mainland is going to do just fine in terms of its ability to process all this. It's really outbound on that Saturday to 4:30 to 6:30 in season. That's going to be the place for us to really be applying the data and analytics.
So this is really just wrap up. We don't want to just flip the switch and walk away and leave you all to just fend for yourselves. We're going to be there to try to help as best we can. We're doing extensive training. We have been doing training for several months, whether it's scanning or whether it's selling tickets at the window on the new system. We've been trying to get our employees up to speed, answering a lot of the questions you have that you're also asking them. So we're trying to give them the tools to help out as best as possible as we do this transition. If you don't want to get online and you don't want to give a credit card or you don't want to do that, you still walk up to the ticket and pay with cash. Walk up to the ticket booth and pay with cash. If you want to do a special event, weddings and things like that, that is not going to be coordinated online, but just as you have now, you call up, you coordinate, charter dollies, charter trams, whatever the case may be. That's still a service that we are offering if you choose to do that. And kind of that last note, as I've already kind of said, we're going to have some stumbles. I think we've planned through a lot of this, but it's impossible for us to really kind of foresee every single individual scenario that might come up. But we will be ready to respond and do the best we can to keep people moving as safely and efficiently as we can. And so I think with that, we were going to open up the mic for questions for folks in the room. And then I think after that, we'll open it up for the folks online.
I have a real quick question.
They'll ask, yeah. So they'll ask you to do that. So the folks online that might have your same question might hear the answer.
Yeah, we actually have 47 people online.
I'm Norm Armitage. I live at 2 Pintail. My question is, can you make a reservation for no frills?
No, no frills is a ticket class that is not going to afford reservations.
Okay, so you're trying to go to off, you're gonna have to go to standby if you're just going off to Walmart.
Correct, which is what you
And
do
does
now.
this- And does the standby list roll over to the next ferry? Let's say you're,
I see what you're saying. It's similar to what it is now. If you are number 151, you're at the front of the line for the next ferry.
just sit there and wait for the next ferry.
Correct.
And then they're gonna call reservations and then they're gonna call standbys.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Be careful with all the wires.
Sir, good. Speak. Thank you.
Hi.
Sir, if I could just follow up on that question real quick. So some may interpret that answer to say that, well, as long as there's people with reservations in front of me, I'm not going to ever get on. The reality is not every boat is filled with reservations. So if you're number one in that line, even if there are 100 reservations in front of you boarding, you're on the next boat. Okay, and that's the reason why we did it the way we did, because we know how some people travel.
Are you gonna have to stay there for an hour? How are you gonna? You got 2 lines, right?
Well, there'll be 2 lines. There'll be one for the standbys and then one for the reservations. But yeah, just like you do now, if you get out of line and you're a standby, then you'll have to, you get out of line, someone could take your place. I mean, that's the reality of the first come, first serve is the way we have it now. We're trying to make that a little bit better and a little bit more predictable. We're not going to be able to solve all of it. We can't guarantee that some people still won't get bumped. But what we're hoping is to reduce the incidence of that by spreading out the flow and making it a little bit more predictable. Now, another advantage, sir, is if you say you're not sure what time you want to go to the store, you could actually get on the system with a no frills ticket. You'd still get on the system and you can see how many reservations are still available. If there's 90 reservations still available for purchase, and you're just going to run down there and get in line, chances are you're going to be in a pretty good position, even as a standby, to walk on the boat and get on that ride. So even if you're not using the reservation system, the information that's available can be really useful for folks to even plan a last minute trip, the no frills ticket.
Hi, I'm Tippi Analik, and I'm a full-time resident. What will happen, because sometimes our computers go down on the island. So what happens is the system goes down and everything is electronic. Like I have my ticket on my iPhone, but it's not coming up, or you can't scan it because computers are down on this side.
So the system, this is one of the specific questions we asked when Chad and I were out in Cincinnati talking to the system is designed to be able to work offline. Now, you have to have a power source, whether it's a battery, but if for whatever reason it's not getting a Wi-Fi, the scanners we're setting those up to have cell coverage as well, so that we have a backup online way to access the database. The system is designed to buffer the information so that we can still scan you on and it'll update everything. If in fact something catastrophic happens, the circus tickets, have you been through that? So what happens if we lose total power and we can't process or scan, we do what's called circus tickets. They're little like lottery
We used
tickets.
those was Hurricane Flood.
Oh, okay.
So what we did is we handed out, we had 3 different colors, I think. Depending on
I
ticket
remember
types.
that, yeah.
So, but right now, we have generated backup on all the power sources. We can run everything off of battery for some period of time. So, if it happens, we'll have to just evolve and go paper and do the count. But it's gonna be rare that we're gonna do that. For the most part, when we even have had to do, I think the last time we used the circus tickets was not so much for us, because we just threw the gates up and you could park and you could come and get on. It was really to manage with public safety where on the island people were going. So that's how we would do it. We would still have those available.
So the other part of that is, say you personally have an issue at home with your electronics, you can come to the window. If you've got an electric ticket, it was texted you or emailed to you. If we're on battery power or generator, you can give them your information. They can print you out a paper ticket. That'll also work. It'll
Okay.
just be a duplicate of what you had.
Now, I think I got this right, but I'm not sure. So if you have a bulk 40, you can have baggage. If you have a bulk 80, no, I'm sorry, bulk 40, you cannot have baggage. A bulk 80, you
Bulk
can.
40 is baggage and tram. Bulk 80 is baggage, no tram.
Oh, baggage
That's
and
the
tram.
existing tariff. That's the tariff that's been in place since 2010.
Okay, so my question is, okay, can I buy two types of tickets?
Sure.
So, okay, so say my husband drops me off. I can use then the bulk 80 one time to get over
And take your bags.
and take a bag. But then coming back, I can use the bulk 40 and then have the tram take me
Correct.
home. Okay, and so then it will,
It will just subtract whichever.
Two separate
From-
tickets,
from
two
that
separate
one.
ticket classes. 80 will subtract the bulk 80 ride. The bulk 40 will subtract the bulk 40 ride. It
okay,
doesn't distinguish whether you're coming or going. So you could have all your bulk 40s could all be inbound and all your bulk 80s could all be outbound.
okay. And then one last question. So, and I'm especially thinking with renters in the summertime. So they have to be out at 10 a.m.
Supposedly.
supposedly, okay. But let's say they don't know what to do with their luggage. They're going to walk around. They know they can't make the 10 o'clock. Can they drop their luggage off at 10 and then get, say, on the 12 o'clock ferry? But what happens to someone that I have a reservation for, say, the 11 o'clock ferry? How do I know that my 11 o'clock, even though I have the reservation, that my baggage is going to make it over? Like, how are you going to distinguish the baggage from, say, somebody that might have a 12 o'clock ferry, reservations for 12, but they drop their baggage off at 10?
So that is kind of the next phase. Something that, like Chad mentioned, say, for example, we end up having to be TSA compliant in terms of baggage screening. We will have a QR code associated with your ticket on the bag. Right now, we can do that, but because of the complexities of just getting to this point, we're choosing to set that down the road once we've kind of worked the wrinkles out with the ferry ticket and reservations. So there is no guarantee right now that your bag is going to be directly associated with the reservations. Somewhat similar now, just because of sheer volume. But if someone drops off their bag they have a 10 o'clock reservation, they drop it off, they don't plan on riding until 12, their bag would probably still go over. That may or may not impact capacity with your bag. But again, the ability to kind of level out that flow will hopefully reduce the amount of time that you have delays for baggage. Because right now, what happens during the peak season, you'll stand in line for a couple of times. Your baggage may come 2 hours or 3 hours after you get to the island. It may show up an hour before you get to the island. It all depends on the ratio of how much baggage people bring, what the ridership on that particular ferry is, because often if it's largely a day trippers, a lot of day trippers on the ferry, they don't bring baggage. But if it's a lot of renters that are on there, there's a good chance that we may not be able to get all that baggage on that ferry.
Okay,
So let's just real
I'm
quick
sorry.
in terms of some of the way the system works. So we've been on the honor system now with 3 bags for call it a year. We saw about an 8 to 10% improvement in our baggage flow. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that is massive because we're pushing 3 million pounds of baggage a year. You know, an 8 to 10% improvement is real numbers. Also, the fact that we are better and the honor system is better on the mainland, pretty much if it gets from the mainland to the island, it's going off.
Mhm.
So as we get better and we're more honorable with our three bag roll and we're watching over there on the high peak days, on the high peak travel times, that's less baggage over here. And so what we believe is that the renter that's going to leave at 10 or noon and has to get out of the house, they're going to book their ferry for 10, 11, or 12 to get off. Their slack in the system should be able to make the bags work. But again, your person that's coming over is coming over. If they're outbound with them and they've got a reservation or they're in line for a certain boat, their baggage is just the way it is today.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Carmen Muggy and I'm a homeowner on the island, 15 Scotch Bonnet. My husband's here as well. So we're both for 40 years and we now understand we've got to get them converted. Can we just walk through the process just generically, whether you're, when you've purchased a ticket, you're going to get a QR code. Our bulk 40s will also have QR codes. We've made a reservation. We get to the ferry landing. Are there two lines, those with reservations and those without reservations? And they'll be segregated in a sense. And so there'll be two lines. We've got reservations. We're in that line. Now, if people don't show up, the ferry arrives. There were 100 people that signed up for reservations. We hit the max, but only 95 show up. And you're just going to let the reservation folks on the boat as it comes. Somebody is dashing, they may make it if they had a reservation, but then you're going to start releasing those standby at a certain time. Are you giving a time limit? Is it when the boat shows up? I know the old days.
Right now,
Dashing.
the tariff reads, you need to be prepared 15 minutes before the vessel leaves. Again, we've been very subjective. And there are folks, I would suggest this, if it's a Tuesday and you're running, you're probably going to make the boat. If it's Saturday at 4:30 off island, you're probably not going to make that.
And I'm just picturing the lines here, right? We've got the one line with the reservations. They're being let on. You're not really counting. Are you scanning them?
Yes,
The
they are being
reservation.
scanned. Now,
And they're
they may be
validated.
pre-scanned. For reservations, we may pre-scan them.
What does that mean?
So, over here on the island, when you come up to the
Oh, I
ferry
got you.
terminal,
I
you got
got you.
that one
Yeah,
at the
yeah, yeah.
beginning
Yeah, yeah,
before you
I
go
got you.
in.
Yeah.
So they'll scan you up there rather than at
I got
the
Right.
gangway. And so the pre-scan, then we'll know how many 15 minutes before the ferry gets there, we'll know how many folks with the reservations are there. We might be able to say, oh yeah, all 75 are here. And then we know that that's it.
I got you.
And then we'll board them and then once we're able to do the standbys, we'll scan them on as the ferries approach.
So you're
People that were here, if you were on island or social the island in 2009, when we moved from Indigo to the Deep Point terminal, the main passenger ferry terminal has the corral that it has now. But originally it had two corrals. Okay, and you can actually see where we took that fencing out of the middle of that corral. We will probably replace that because that would also help us be that much closer to TSA compliant. And the more organized we are on the outbound helps us be more organized on the return trip back to the mainland. So if you go over there, you'll see where the concrete poles are, where the main ferry is. If you look on the floor, you can actually see where the old gate was. We will probably replace that gate and put that gate back.
Okay. So with the QR code, my QR code, because I've made a reservation, I'm a bulk 40er. My husband and I are getting on the ferry. You scan them both. We have reservations. It knows it based on the association of the reservation with this QR code that we'll use again in the future. Not a big deal. The system handles that.
Yeah, so for the bulk 40 though, you'll get a coupon, which allows you to, each time you choose to make a reservation, you'll get a different QR code.
I got you.
won't
The
just
different QR
because of
codes.
the bulk nature because of the nature of the bulk 40, we have to do it that way because We can't generate a repeating or variable
That's right.
reservation from one
We
queue.
don't want
got
to
you.
force you. You want to be your choice. Sometimes you may want to use your bulk 40 with a reservation. Other times you just want to use your bulk 40 and go first come, first serve on a standby basis. Because
Right.
it's Tuesday or Wednesday when you know you don't need to make a reservation.
But if you have that coupon code, you're gonna have to go into the system, and even if it's not the time you want to run, you're gonna have to generate a QR code for it. So
I'm sorry, I missed that part.
so you can't just walk up with your coupon code and scan that in. You're gonna have to go into the system.
Right, I got you.
Generate a QR code, even if you don't think you're gonna make that particular boat, you can still make that reservation. It'll generate a QR code for you.
Right.
And then come up. And if you don't make that boat, your QR code is still good for the next one, or 5 boats down the line, it's still good. but
So
you
we'll have
to
a
that.
unique coupon code associated with our bulk 40 purchase.
So that
is
you
how
can
it
have the
works.
choice to make a reservation.
Or not make a
Okay.
reservation.
But if you choose the coupon code instead of printed tickets, which wouldn't allow you to make a reservation, you do have to generate a QR code each time you want to ride.
Okay,
But it is, I've gone through and purchased many tickets. You can do it in a minute.
which sort of we do today when we book trams, right? It's not too difficult.
It's
It
not.
looks very similar, right, than booking a tram today,
Yeah,
right?
very similar.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
So a couple of things, we had some questions and I'll just, as you come up, we had some questions about employees that, you know, there's some folks that think the employees should be boarding first. And that's not what this process is about. That will take a rate case to determine what different ticket classes we have. That'll be in the future. To have that discussion, the island can work that out on how they want that to look. But right now, this system's not going to change the pecking order, for the lack of a better word, as to what ticket class you have and when you board. Whether we like it or not, the employee ticket is a class 6 ticket. They board 6th in line on a first come, first served basis. There's no ability for them today or tomorrow to make a reservation. Okay, so we want to be clear that we're not resorting the deck. We're just allowing enough slack capacity for those, basically the class 1, 2, and 3 tickets to do what they can do right now but do it online and not have to do it in person, standing down there. Sorry.
All right, thank you. Charles Cockle, I'm a property owner, part-time, more part than I'd like, but this is a really simple question, but I just didn't hear it clearly for myself. Right now, when I come to the island, most of the time I make a tram reservation because I hope, when I'm arriving. But I usually at that day don't know when I'm leaving the island precisely. Will the system allow me to make a ferry/tram reservation to come to the island and then go back into it later to determine my time for leaving? I just didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
Yes. We don't need to necessarily go back to it, but it'll be the purchase tickets, then it says my ticket. If you go back into that portion and say you've already on the island and you want to change your departure, you can go back into that specific leg and change the departure for your ferry reservation and your tram.
I just had a question about leftover paper tickets, I guess, for bulk 40. So did you say we can turn those in and then that goes on an or that's the coupon?
What'll happen is
or-
if you have a pack of bulk
Like I have-
tickets right now, where you have 10 out of
12 or
left,
something.
right? You're gonna go to the ticket window and you're gonna do one of two things. You're gonna get another 10 bulk 40s back. They're gonna walk and talk and look the same thing, except one thing different. Right now, everything is barcoded. Unfortunately, technology is moving very quickly. The scanning equipment that scans barcodes cannot scan QR codes, and the QR codes can't scan the barcode. So if you prefer, we'll hand you back 10 bulk 40 tickets with the QR code on them, or you can go ahead and at that point in time, elect to move to to electronic ticketing, and you'll get your coupon codes and you'll get loaded that way.
And
you'll
then
have 10
those can
10
be, and if it was paper tickets, those can have a reservation because they'll have a QR code or no?
No, if you choose to replace your current paper with paper, you're kind of giving up your ability to make a reservation.
Okay.
If you
got it.
choose to convert it and get the coupon code, then you can go in, do your reservation and generate an electronic QR for each trip you choose to make.
Okay, and those coupons or whatever, the codes can be like, I might be coming now, my daughter might be coming another time, so just share the coupon.
Yeah, you can,
Coupons.
yes, you can share the coupon code. They can generate the QR code. And then once you've achieved your maximum number of rides under that coupon code, no matter who uses it, it becomes invalid
Okay,
and you'll have to
and then you
repurchase.
just pay the online. Okay, got it. Thanks.
So one of the things we've also tried to plan for is entities or individuals buying out whole vessels for the entire season. Every day, the 7:30 boat leaving D Point. That's why we're also not doing that with we're not putting that system into place for the contractor employee boat, because there might be a few folks that could basically say, all right, contractor boat at 7:30 leaving D Point, we're going to buy the whole boat out for Tuesday, every Tuesday this summer. I would suggest that that's some of the speculation out there on social media. I would suggest there's really only 2 organizations that can do that. Limited being one, because we would have the financial power, capacity to do that. And there is one other organization. That other organization is not going to do that. So we will have the ability to see it happen and we'll know what's happening, but that's highly unlikely to happen. It doesn't happen. It hasn't happened. We did have some of those issues during COVID when we only could take 25 passengers over, but that's not going to be an issue that anybody in this room is going to have to worry about.
Hi, Susan Ward. I've been a property owner. Susan Ward, I've been a property owner here for 32 years and I live at 8 Indian Blanket at the current time. I mean, that's my house. 2 questions. One is, when you get that coupon for the QR code for the bulk 40s, will you then be able to, let's say you make a reservation, add like children's tickets to that and still use the coupon?
I have not tested that yet. However,
The answer is yes, but we haven't tested it, the children piece.
well, I think the challenge will be, I'll have to check that one. That question has not come up, believe it or not.
Glad I came.
So, yeah, I think we're gonna have to test that and see if that's possible, because what it would want to do, and you're talking about like the $12 child.
Yeah, the 3 to 12
Yeah.
ticket.
Theoretically,
not a problem with the-
because we've only done 100 reservations. So theoretically, you should not have a problem because we rarely have that many kids on there, but we do need to be able to figure out how we can tie a reservation to a bulk 40 with a child purchase with the same bulk. 40
Or,
passengers.
or a bike purchase.
Yeah,
Oh, you know, you have.
yeah, you can always add on, yeah, we'll have to check that out. I don't think it's impossible. I just haven't tested it. That's the first time.
Bikes, baggage, and kayaks, we have that works. Bikes, baggage, and kayaks.
But you don't know if children.
But we don't know if you could bring your child.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure the way,
Children,
You
but
might
yeah.
want to leave your kid on the mainland anyway.
I'll test that, but I'm pretty sure the way it will work is it will zero out the cost for your bulk 40 ticket, and then you will have to pay for whatever add-ons. that
Right,
you include.
yes.
I don't think that's a problem. I just haven't tested it yet. So I can't give you 100% affirmative answer now, but the system is set up to allow you to select those different classes, and the coupon is just supposed to offset the cost of the ticket that you've already paid for.
Okay. But then if you couldn't add on, would you be able to separately purchase children tickets?
Yes,
Without an adult ticket?
Yeah.
You could purchase just children's tickets.
We can set it.
Yes, you can do that.
We could do that, yes.
Okay, all right. Then I have another question. All right, so let's be reality here. The ferries don't run on time all the time. So you show up 15 minutes ahead of time, maybe half hour ahead of time, and a ferry shows up at 10 minutes of 5, and you have a reservation on the 5 o'clock ferry, but that's really the 4 o'clock ferry. So will the 100 people with reservations on the 4 o'clock ferry get on? Now, will you then take standbys from the 4 o'clock ferry? Or will you take the people with reservations on the 5 o'clock ferry before you take the standbys that are there?
So the way we have contemplated is everyone shifts forward, so to speak. So we will have, this is part of the one challenge that we have not quite, we're gonna have to see how it works first. My inclination is if those folks showed up for the 4 o'clock, and obviously they'll get on first, but we will, and then we will obviously, we'll try to load it, the stand-ons as well, and then we'll do the 5 o'clock reservations and standbys. But part of the advantage of the system is now, instead of just showing up and wondering, is we'll be able to send you a note that the ferry is running 1 hour behind and you can delay your arrival or something like that. What we're also trying to do with this, again, by normalizing the flow a little bit, is reduce the number of times that we're off schedule. Now, there's things like today with the code 1 that we can't control. That means we're off schedule for the rest of the day because there's not enough elasticity in our schedule for us to make up that amount of time. We are just on too tight a turnaround. The speed, time, distance problem is too difficult. So this is one of those areas we're going to have to look at what is the best way. How do we keep people moving in a fair manner? Those folks that got in line for the standby, it's not their fault that we were an hour behind. So we have to look at those realities as well.
Well, my concern would be that, and you guys are gonna have to play God on this or something, that the standbys, if you, let's say all the 4 o'clocks and then the 5 o'clock, you'll end up with standbys who never get on the ferry.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and because we're not allowing a full boat to be reservations, we're gonna have to figure out what is the cutoff line and then how we can make sure that we keep those standbys moving while still recognizing that people did make reservations. When the ferry gets that far behind, we have to drop a run. Those are things that, again, that we want to make notice of so that we can hope we can get people to maybe not arrive to the, delay their arrival to the system a little bit later. But this is one of those major challenges that truthfully we're implementing the system to try to help solve. Because right now, as you well know, you show up and there's 200 people in front of you or 400 people in front of you. You never know what boat you're actually going to end up getting on. And so we're trying to build a little more predictability in the system. But you bring up a point that I lose a ton of sleep thinking about. And trust me, I told Chad today, I've been losing a lot of sleep thinking about over and over again is how do we do this, get the benefit that we're trying to get for everyone that uses the system, try to be fair, try to give access that is reasonable and predictable. And it's going to be tough. I admit it. There's going to be some people who are going to be disappointed. There's going to be some people that are angry. What I would say is that the effort that we're putting into this is for the right outcome. It will not be because of a lack of effort or care that people are going to have a bad experience with us. But we will try to do everything we can to make sure that we fix it as soon as possible in the best way possible. Sometime that's with this new system, a little bit of it's going to be trial and error. And I would love to be able to promise you that we'll have it solved in 2 weeks, but it's going to take us a little bit of time.
Well, I just want to say, having been a property owner for 32 years, we started $8 and we just had your circuits tickets, the little red tickets is what we had. And remember, you went back for free. You only had to have a ticket to come on the island. You didn't need a ticket to go off. So this is light years.
Those are pre-regulation days. Yeah.
Okay, that was light years ago. So this is probably going to be good.
I'm going to be a little bit more confident and say it'll be mostly good.
Question again for the guys online to hear. I know, I didn't, that's why I was asking. Hi, I'm Linda Locke. I'm a permanent resident. My question is, we talked about the code one. I'm not sure, I'm sure. Is that a medical or is that someone's been
Yes.
arrested?
Yes.
Okay, with a large number of people and all of the kids and everything, I'm sure the arrest numbers are gonna go up. Do the code ones and the arrests get a empty ferry, or do we still put people on the ferry?
We have code ones and code twos. Code ones like today is it's a real medical emergency, which means that if the ferry is left port, it must turn back around and come back and collect that code one. A code two is that they will just board with the next available boat. Okay, they're stable. They can board with the next available boat. When it comes to arrests, the ones that we have, that's worked out with the folks in the back there. And for the most part, depending upon the arrest, those people will board there. It's not a return ferry for the next available. They're on the next available. It's not a return vessel to port to pick up an arrest.
So there will be residents and.
Yes, we work with the emergency, with the PSOs to, if we have to kind of segregate, maybe, we don't allow people riding in the back for reasons of safety, but sometimes we can make an arrangement to have that area for, if it's a significant emergency, sometimes, we try to coordinate to try to make it as discreet as possible. But the reality is there's a gurney coming on and off, or there's someone in handcuffs coming on and off of the boat, and we can't shield that from everyone's eyes.
Right.
But we do our best to make sure that the general riding passengers are not exposed to any danger or risk as necessary. And that's in close coordination with the PSOs.
Just thinking about the backup of people if no one else is allowed on those ferries.
Yeah, no, to my knowledge, in a year and a half, we've never had a situation where we've cleared the boat.
Okay, thank you.
Good news is usually the arrests are at times of travel where we don't have a full boat. A lot of times it's at night, late, is usually how it works out.
Hi, I'm Bob Price, 985 South Bald Head. If I'm supposed to know this answer, I don't. When is this system going live?
So we are scheduled right now to begin in-depth internal training and testing next week, June 5th. And then if everything goes as planned, and this is based on word from the vendor who has done this dozens and dozens of times, they feel like usually by Wednesday, they're ready to go live, which would be a flip of the switch. And the system becomes available publicly. We have already established several criteria that if we aren't comfortable in those certain areas, that we won't go live. We'll delay until testing and development gets us where we're comfortable with doing it. But right now, that's the current plan. I would like to say we're absolutely going live on June 7th, but the reality is if I'm not satisfied, if Chad isn't satisfied, if Shirley isn't satisfied, that we're in a position that we can make this work, we'll delay it.
Okay, so assuming you do go live on June the 7th, when my wife and I leave the island on June the 7th, will we have to take our bulk 40 tickets to the ticket window and exchange the barcode tickets for the Q, whatever that thing is called?
You can do that. We're looking at a transition plan to make it smooth. So you come up to the window, you still have barcode tickets. We'll be able to give you a quick QR code just to get you back to the other side. You go about whatever you're going to do. And then when it's a more convenient time to come back to the window over on Deep Point, we can do the transition then.
Okay, and my last question for Luddites like me. I have a 450-mile drive to get here when I get here. And so I don't usually know which ferry I'm going to be on, depending on the traffic. And since I don't have the ability to get on some app with my flip phone, will I still be able to call for a tram reservation?
Yes, and what I would recommend is even if you're not sure what time you're going to get here, Do you have a computer at home that's online?
Yeah, but that's 450 miles
No,
away.
I get it. What I'm saying is you're making your plans to head back down here.
Yep,
Go ahead online. You
Yep.
can select whichever ride you think you're gonna be here. You can make your reservation, print out have it emailed to you, print it out and bring it with you. And you'll be able to get on the next boat, most likely when you arrive. Obviously, if you miss that particular reservation that you thought you were gonna make, you can stand in line for the next one. I think most people will find that even if they miss their reservation, there's probably a high probability they'll be able to get on the next one. Your coupon, the QR code you printed out is good for basically any ferry that you end up getting on. The only difference is that the reservation is only valid for the one you selected. So say you selected the 17th,
Right.
the 5 p.m. departure from Deep Point.
right.
You actually get there at 5:30 and you're not going to be able to make it until the 6 p.m. run.
Right.
Just get in the line and get on the 6 p.m. run. You're fine.
And what
Use
about
that,
my
use it.
tram reservation that was associated with the 5 o'clock ferry?
So if you don't think you're going to make it, there's
Right.
two things you can do. Well, you have the flip phone. Call up
I can't
call up
call
the
it.
folks, give them your name or your confirmation number that'll be on your printed out QR code, right? And they can go into the system and adjust it for you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we're not trying to make a completely rigid system that if you don't hit every target, that you're out of luck. It should be, you will have the ability to make adjustments, and if worse comes to worse and you absolutely can't make it work, give us a call and we can go into the system and do a lot of stuff within the system to shift your reservation for the ferry, your reservation for the tram. It's not going to be that difficult to make adjustments.
I'm Tim Smith. First of all, I'm not gonna be like Bob. I can't imagine Bob got up here and said he doesn't have anything but a flip phone. But since he admits it.
Here it is.
No, I agree. I'm just wondering, it seems like this is a big deal to do 2 weeks before the 4th of July. And why you pick now instead of like February, the middle of February to do this? First of all.
So, yeah, so we didn't really pick this period. The realities is when we started development, because of the complexities of the tariff, because of the complexities involved with tram connecting to the ferry service, the development took a little longer than we expected. We did want to roll this out. We were originally targeting the March, April timeframe so that we would have it ready and tested before Memorial Day weekend. We got up to that point and we pushed it and we pushed it. And we ended up pushing it past Memorial Day. Looking at the data, June, this period in June before we get to the July 4th weekend is kind of, I would say, a relatively mild season, part of the season. And because of the way the system we hope is usable as it is for everyone, and some of the rules and processes that we put in place for transition, we hope that it's relatively seamless for existing customers and new customers, particularly new customers, because they've never used it before. They're not gonna, and renters and folks like that, they're not gonna know much different in terms of how to go online and buy a ticket and all that kind of stuff. But we think to a certain extent, we'll be able to manage transition, kind of find out those big sticking points, because the system will have enough stress on it that we'll have to look at some potentially creative ways to work around some of the flow issues. And hopefully, by the time the 4th rolls around, we'll actually be able to realize some of the benefits of the reservation and the online ticketing system and actually reduce some of the line issues that we always experience during that time of year. So we're looking to get the benefit out of the system. And the reality is sometimes you just have to go, because
But the
we
benefit.
keep pushing it off.
Remember, we're not turning off one system and turning on another. We're gonna run 2 parallel systems together. The electronic ticketing, the benefits are in season. The benefits are that's when we're going to see the benefits. So we need to get those benefits in here as fast as we can.
Has any discussion been entertained about different ticket prices for different time? You know, obviously, we're trying to smooth out these big bumps. I mean, is there any?
The problem with that is, the ferry and tram are regulated for the Carolina Utilities Commission. The way that works is first come, first serve on ticket class. They do not have a single surge pricing system in their system right now. We have been the first for a lot of things in North Carolina Utilities Commission. That will be something we can talk about at the next rate case, is how we address that issue.
So if that was something that,
But the system can handle surge pricing.
yes, that's what the demand pricing is something the system is.
If you have your
readily
name, we'll be
available.
certain that you are a participant in the next rate case.
Any other in-room questions? All right, I guess we are on deck for any online questions.
Yes, so hi everyone, this is Pam Henson online, just to help with any online questions. So I have one email question to read, and any online participants, please raise your hand and we'll go from there. So I'll read this email question first. And you have addressed this, but let me read this specific scenario. Maybe good to hear one more time the answer. Let's see. So we live in the hammocks, and friends purchased the bulk 40 tickets, and we subsequently split them between our two families. Each family therefore got 40 tickets. When we come in June and present them to the Deep Point ticket office to obtain QR tickets, how will you deal with the fact that we split the tickets between two families? Will they show up as being purchased by one family? Will that be an issue in following months because we currently have so many tickets left from our pack? How does that work?
So when you go to exchange, one part of the question that I'm not sure that we would know whether you would be exchanging them all at one time or whether each family would be exchanging them separately. But regardless, whatever tickets you bring to the booth, those will be exchanged for either replacement paper tickets with the QR code. Those would not be able to make online reservations, or you can request to exchange those tickets for a coupon code that you will be able to generate QR codes with reservations for the same number of tickets that you turned in. And so that would basically be it. And whether the other family brings their stack of tickets with them and does the same thing, they'll get a different QR code from you, but it will only be good for the number of physical tickets they turn back in. Hopefully that makes sense.
Okay. And we have a hand raised, and I will allow to talk for Jeff Kenny. And if you will please unmute yourself and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, Jeff Kenny, 3 Grove Court. And just a quick question, and the answer may be, well, it's no different than today, which is for the standby walk-ins, and say there's 50, or there's 70 in line. Will they get a number as to when they showed up? Or is it going to be somebody pushes their way up to the front and gets on because they've counted 50 and they know they need to push up in line?
Well, the short answer is they will get in line. The more complex answer is related to the second part of your question about people not being courteous and thinking they are more important than everyone else that's already there. I mean, ideally, it's a self-policing situation, but we have had instances where folks have been belligerent or otherwise tried to force themselves in the line. And we will, if that happens, our staff should be able to help if it gets out of hand. But we're hoping that folks will be courteous, just like they're supposed to be now. I mean, everyone knows how long the lines get. And Sometimes people try to, as you noted, wedge their way up to the front. We haven't had a whole lot of really serious issues. Most of it has been self-policing within the line. But we can't predict how people react in certain situations.
And Mr. Kenny, what we've done in the past is during those high traffic times in season, we will have PSO down there at the gate, making sure that people are not pushing and being belligerent. But the short answer is it's the same first come, first serve honor system in that regard. Notwithstanding if we have folks being belligerent and being ugly, we'll have PSO take care of that.
And
I assume so. So just thank you.
just kind of a little bit of a thought exercise, not really an exercise, but something to think about is while we have established the availability of 100 online reservations for each ride, the chances of all 100 being filled based on the data is actually less than 50%. So there's a more than likely chance that there will be more spaces available on a ferry for standby than just the 50 that are nominally allocated compared, when compared with the online reservations. So there will be times when we'll probably book out all 100, but the vast majority of runs, there will be more spaces available for standby than probably the number of reservations we have made.
Okay, and that looks like all the questions we have today. So just a reminder that this recorded session, along with the one that's currently on both our YouTube channel for Bald Head Association and the website, baldheadassociation.com. This one will be added within 24 hours. And thank you all so much for this great information session.